School District 67 Board of Education meeting for December 17th, 2024. May I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Engelberg?
Here.
Mr. Adamo?
Here.
Mrs. Shohan?
Here.
Mrs. Bernal?
Here.
Mr. Remus?
Here.
Ms. Yon?
Here.
Mr. Carrar?
Here.
Motion carries.
I will now ask all members of the board, administration, and community to stand at attention, facing the flag with their right hand over their heart to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. First of all, thank you everyone for your patience as we started a little bit late this evening as our workshop ran a little bit late, and I'm now happy to turn things over for the Sheridan Spotlight.
Oh, that was quick. Okay. Let me just get back on. For you. Come on up, guys. Come on up, Michael. So, thank you for welcoming us. This is our Sheridan Spotlight, and we are really excited to be here talking about something that is very near and dear to my heart. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an intro, and then I will, of course, turn it over to those who you are most interested to hear from. But what I wanted to just show you is how this is all really connected to the work that we're doing district-wide as well as at the school level. So you can see at the school level, we have a goal around belonging that connects to the district strategic plan, goal 2 around belonging, and this also can demonstrate these competencies from our portrait. So as you hear about what we're doing and as you're listening to these fabulous fourth graders, you can think about how these pieces connect. So one of the initiatives we have really been working on at Sheridan thus far this year is how do we get towards some of that belonging that might be missing, right? And this can show up in students in all different ways. This can be some anxiety, this can be some, I don't really want to come to school, I'm tardy a lot. This can be also just some of that like disengagement and sort of apathy. Something that we look at a lot of, is there this sense of purpose? Why am I here? What am I doing? What's my job while I'm here? And so in order to get at some of that, we have created a meaningful work program. This is one of the things that goes along with Safe and Civil Schools and our foundation's work and everything that we do within that. But we have really bumped this up this year. And so we have meaningful work and mentorship that the meaningful work are jobs. I mean, really, and this is our list of job titles that these all belong to students. And it really just empowers them to feel like they have a real sense of purpose in our building. They're doing work that really matters for the school community, for our school's function, for everything like that. And then mentorship is really that relationship. It can be adults. I mean, it's designed to be adults mentoring children, but we have really leveraged our kids to do a lot of that mentoring. So they're going to talk a lot about what that leadership looks like in terms of how it's good for Sheridan, it's good for kids. But these, like I said, are some of the job titles. Many of them actually have job descriptions that we go over with kids and everything. They do get paid in shark stickers, so It's a real job. And they take a great deal of pride in it. And there are 22 right now and counting. We just added some this week. And they take, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, one is watering plants in the morning. It can be putting books back. It can be helping another student take a sensory break, or opening our reef room, which is our sensory room, to make sure that it's ready in case anybody needs it. So there's lots of different things. You'll hear more from them, and then we have a video showing some of it in action. So I turn it over to you guys. All right. Go ahead. You ready?
Hi, my name is Jacob, and I'm gonna talk about what does leadership look like at Sheridan School. Leadership at Sheridan School looks like setting a good example for little ones, being responsible, and showing your spark. Being a leader also looks like being patient while helping younger students. Also, it's just fun to help. Leadership also shows responsibility. One way leadership has shown responsibility is when we did the domino challenge. Kids and adults have to be responsible for helping set up the boxes, holding them so they don't fall, and counting them at the end. Another reason is helping to sort books. In the library, we can be responsible by helping sort books and putting them back when we are done. We can also help by taking care of the books we check out and returning them. A last way leadership can show responsibility is during kindergarten playtime. In the mornings, students can go down for 10 to 15 minutes and help out the teachers, play, and get to know the kindergartners. When the bell rings, they go back to their classrooms.
Opportunities for leadership. Our school shows leadership by helping the younger kids with activities in our shark families. Kids set good examples to show the younger kids so they know how to also show leadership to others. Fourth graders have the opportunity to do presentations about different topics during school assemblies. It is a good opportunity to teach others. Finally, fourth graders help come up with ideas for prizes for our shark sticker rewards. This shows leadership that affects the whole school.
Hi, my name is Ellie, and I'm here to talk about how we show leadership at Sheridan School with buddies. One way we show leadership is with buddies. This shows leadership. One way we do buddies is with reading. This is a way we help second graders get better at their reading skills. Our fourth graders go out in the hall and do minute reads with the second graders. The fourth graders give them feedback and tips about their reading. Another way we do buddies is we have our second graders play or read to the preschoolers. This shows leadership by setting an example and showing patience and responsibility. Also, this makes our preschoolers feel included. Finally, we do buddies by picking up the kindergartners on shark events. Our fourth graders lead them to their shark family or activity room. This shows leadership by teaching responsibility and setting a good example. And now we have a video to show these things in action.
The video with a makeshift microphone situation, so we hope you can hear. This was not my makeshift, by the way.
At Sheridan School, we help each other, especially younger kids, but it doesn't really matter. Many kids have other jobs. They mentor other kids or help teachers around the building.
Fourth graders have the most responsibilities because they can help with a lot of things. Some of the things fourth graders have to do is they help second grade readers. They help them improve their reading skills.
Reef room is a place where people can calm down in that area, and
I am one of the persons who helps clean up the reef room and set it up right when I get to school. If I didn't do that job, kids wouldn't be able to be in that reef room.
Being a leader and a Sheridan Shark at our school means to take responsibilities like a job, like me and my best friend Wynn do. We help sort the books on a rack and sort the books out on the shelves. And this helps our community because all the things that we do makes our community the best community in the country.
Another great thing about Sheridan School is that we have mentorship, and we help the fourth graders help the kindergartners and younger people.
That was great. Should we try again?
Okay, sure.
This is in preschool. He's helping them breathe.
That made me feel really calm.
So sorry that the sound was not great, but that was the best that we could come up with. You guys want to say thank you?
A special thanks to Mr. Paul for directing and filming our video.
Thank you so much. Everyone did a fantastic job presenting.
Questions for them? What's the best job? Do you guys know a best job?
The most fun or the most helpful?
It's a good question. What do you guys think?
I just like helping others and being responsible. And like Jacob said, it's just fun to help others.
Ellie, you were going to say something?
I like the reading coaches because I like helping people get better at their reading. Yeah. I liked counting the cereal boxes. Yeah. And carrying them all. And boxing them up and working together to count them.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Oh, we gotta go up there for a picture. Come on up. You can take this. It's okay. Or do you want, here, give me your paper.
So we are going to move on to the rest of the board meeting, starting with my president's report. For our guests from Sheridan, you are more than welcome to stay if you would like. However, if you feel like you have better things to do, we certainly understand if you'd like to leave. So. For my president's report this evening, I wanted to touch on one of the issues that is on the agenda for tonight's meeting, and that is voting on and approving the tax levy. The tax levy is probably one of the more dry topics that we have to address, but it's also one of the most important topics. I apologize, Dr. Hermes, for calling the tax levy dry, but there's a lot of nuanced detail that goes into that tax levy, a lot of thought that goes into that tax levy. And it's really just one aspect of what the board does and the administration does year-round in terms of monitoring and managing the finances of this district. Every single month, the board gets a financial update. where we have the opportunity to review the details of what money is coming in, what money is going out. We have bi-monthly board meetings with the Finance and Ops Committee where we do a deeper dive on all of the financial issues. We also have, every single year, we have a tentative budget that is discussed, and then we discuss a final budget, and then we have a discussion regarding the tentative levy, and then the final levy. And throughout this process, throughout the year, the board has the opportunity to ask lots of questions of the administration to get an understanding for how is the health of the district? What are our current concerns? What are our current obligations? And what does the future look like in making sure that we are meeting those obligations? And one of the places that comes home to roost is in the tax levy. How much money do we need in the coming year to support this district in the manner to which the members of this community expect the school system to be run, and making sure those funds are available? This is a year where we're looking at an increase for the tax levy, and that's because it's necessary, and we'll hear some more detail about that later. For me, I would rather not have an increase to the tax levy. Every member on this board is a taxpayer in this community. We are all in favor of lower taxes, but sometimes it's necessary, especially this year where, as everybody is familiar, everything is more expensive. And certainly supporting this district is seen lots of increased costs as well, and that's no different for this community. One thing that I am extremely proud of, and there's a lot of people that should take credit for this, including Dr. Montgomery, Dr. Hermes, is even with the levy that we will likely approve this evening, Lake Forest District 67 has the lowest tax rate in Lake County, the sixth lowest in the state of Illinois. So we are run as a very efficient district, and we should take pride in that. And that provides a little context for kind of the review and oversight that this board provides to the finances throughout the year, and specifically the levy that we're going to discuss this evening. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Montgomery for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, sir. Happy December to all of you. We are in a race to the finish with holiday break just around the corner. In tonight's report, I will start with the human resource audit that will be released tomorrow to the community and give you some highlights. Move through some winter weather, even though we haven't experienced a great deal of it. I want to make sure that's on the top of people's mind to level set expectations. Talk about safe to help reporting to make sure we're safe 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then some exciting things to celebrate that are happening in the district. I'll start with the human resource audit. As many of you know, we utilized a service with Baker Tilly to specifically take a deeper dive into our hiring practices and our onboarding practices of our staff, not only in 67, but also 115. And that report came in, the commitment was prior to winter break, and we just received it yesterday. And I'm going to go over some of the high-level results, acknowledging that there is a full report that is accompanying this messaging that I'm sharing today. The objectives that you see on the screen essentially cover hiring practices and onboarding. When we look at the results from the audit itself, I am pleased to say that there were only enhancements offered to our current practices, and the categories of those enhancements are before you now. From, and I'm going to start with the digital footprint as an example. There was recommendations for us to look at a new third-party provider for those individuals who are coming to our district as we screen them for social media, other things that you can find through looking at Google searches. We had a vendor and we were looking at moving away from them. We were looking at that prior to this, but it reaffirmed the need to amp up and look at different resources for our digital footprinting process through the screening. When we looked at fingerprinting, there was a recommendation of increasing our follow-up procedures should a applicant have negative results on their fingerprinting screening. and also who is getting access to that fingerprinting data. With regards to reference checks and hiring procedures, there was recommendations to enhance the forms in which we have detailed checks for how we are going through reference checks and who is actually getting access, and making sure we're standardizing the process of how that is being done. And then ensuring, this was one of the bigger hits, there are so many layers of the onboarding process. Whenever possible, Baker Tilly was really recommending that we ensure that all of the onboarding is completed before work begins. I will tell you that sometimes that is difficult because of the multi-layers of the process itself and the time in which we are trying to hire some of our postings that happen very last minute. That being said, Baker Tilly was emphatic to try to make sure that everything is completed before the personnel is actually beginning work on the campus. And there was recommendations around employment applications. There were some of the questions that we ask, and their recommendation was that we separate them out to specific yes, nos, where we had, in some of our questions, a list of multiple different factors within one question, and their recommendation was to tease it out and do specific yes or nos for every layer within the list of things that would be essentially disqualifiers or potential disqualifiers when we were going through the actual interview process. There were recommendations to change some of the wording or the vernacular, for example, using terms like applicant or candidate until the onboarding process is actually complete, to make sure that they are delineated from an employee until the onboarding process has been rendered successful. This report will be released in its entirety without any changes to the community tomorrow. So I will provide a short summary from my perspective, and then attach the document itself so our community can see the fine details of what Baker Tilly shared about our processes and the ways in which they believe that they can enhance, or we can enhance, our practices. Are there any questions about that specific item before I move forward? Because Phil and I can help.
One question, and I know you just got the report, and so I don't know if it's too early to answer this or not. Are there any recommendations from Baker Tilly that the district will not be adopting?
No, not at all. In fact, some of the things that they recommended, Dr. Georgia had already put in place since the fall, and others are enhancements that we are absolutely going to lean into and put into place as soon as possible. Phil, do you have anything counter to that or anything else to add?
No, I think the process was helpful. We got some tips on enhancements that we can add, and we're willing to do all of those.
Any other questions about the HR audit?
What is a negative fingerprint?
Phil, do you want? I can start, but.
Yeah, no, so, when we get the background checks from candidates who have applied and got their fingerprinting done, some of them come back with a hit as kind of the vernacular for it, and that just means they have something on their record. And then we have to process through that and determine whether it's an enumerated offense that would completely disqualify them from employment with the district, or if it's something that we need to have a follow-up conversation with them to get more information about before making an employment decision.
One question that seems to be asked a lot about this isn't necessarily for new hires, but for people who are already staff that's already been onboarded and is already adopted into the district. Did they have any recommendations for, screening people from that perspective?
They didn't provide any recommendations for current employees. Some of the things that are in place, though, there's board policies that require employees to self-report if they've been arrested or have something happen. The other thing that occurs is the state police. If somebody's had a background check completed for us, and then there's a further incident that gets added to their record, they'll send us an update. So that keeps us up to date with current employees.
Thank you for the questions. If it's okay, I will proceed with the report. to other topics, including winter weather guidelines. While it is my preference, counter to what my own children wish, I'm hoping for no calamity days this winter. In the event that we do require a calamity day, know that the data is coming through the district through many different sources. If you're at home wondering what I am watching, it's not weather.com, it's the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. So the NOAA site is what I look at most closely. We also get reports through the Regional Office of Education, and then there's people driving the roads in the morning to look at the safety, to see real-time changes. And remember, there's microclimates, so there could be things happening in Lake Bluff or Knollwood that maybe are not happening in the southern portion of Lake Forest, so we take all of that into account. If we are going to call a snow day, all in this, if I'm going to call a snow day, we have 2 non-instructional days. So we surveyed our communities last year or the year before about if they wanted us to go to remote learning or if they wanted traditional snow days, as maybe we remember as we're growing up. And the results were that the community preferred that we took traditional snow days when possible. So there are 2 days that they're built into the calendar that we can have as traditional before we're moving to remote learning. If you have greater than 2 days, we will move into a remote learning environment, which means there'll be assignments for the students that are distributed that they will be accountable for on the 3rd or 4th or beyond day of non-instruction. There is a potential, this happened before, where we had to extend the school year because of the amount of days missed. So know that should there be inclement weather that happens frequently throughout the winter, there is possibility of the school calendar changing. We try to make sure everybody is aware at 6 a.m. That's usually the time that we're striving for. If it is one of those severe cold days, I will try to call it the night before. So if I know it's going to be negative 20 degrees, I will try to give parents and guardians the most time because I know how challenging it is for childcare, especially for our families who have both parents, guardians that are working. And then we will use our notification through the Bright Arrow system as well as the website and social media. Here is a change that came as a recommendation from Mr. Walsh, which is moving from our confidential incident form of any student who needs support or wants to share things in a confidential manner. Maybe they need help personally. We had a form that was on our website that students or community members could fill out as a confidential reporting tool. We are moving to Safe to Help Illinois, which is a service that is provided by the state. The biggest thing that this offers that adds an added layer of protection for our families is that this is monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And as the holidays are approaching, you don't know when there's going to be a student or a family in distress, and we want to make sure that our families have as much support as possible. So if you don't know about this resource, this is why we're talking about it today, and we'll continue to promote it out. It is something that we hope you don't need, but we want to make sure that you know is available. Some celebrations now. I am happy to report that through creative partnerships, we were able to put on Seussical the Musical in partnership with the Gorton and our elementary school students and brainstormers. This is for the grades 2, 3, and 4. We had 21 performers that helped make this musical possible. If you haven't seen Seussical, I'm a big fan. It is a play on Dr. Seuss's books, and it is a lot of fun. We have had some of the Winter Sings and performances. We have also Cherokee is still on the horizon later this week, but we had last Friday Sheridan and Everett, and with a DPM holiday concert tomorrow night for 6, 7, 8, and then Cherokee on the following day on the 19th. So this is a time where we have much to celebrate, and it's wonderful to see our young people sharing joy through the arts.
Up on the housetop, reindeer paws, out jumps good old Santa Claus, down through the chimney with lots of toys, all for the little ones' Christmas joys. Ho, 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 who would go? Ho, 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 who would go? Up on the housetop, click, 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 down through the chimney with good Saint Nick.
And those are some of our Everett Eagles celebrating their winter sing last Friday. Winter break begins officially Friday at the end of the day, but it starts Monday, December 23rd, and we will be welcoming our students back on campus after hopefully a much-deserved and well-rested break on Monday, January 6th. Remember that Friday is open in 67, but closed in 115. So this is one of those rare examples during the school day where the calendars do not match up identically. Thank you, and that includes my superintendent's report, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you may have.
We have reached the first point in the meeting for public participation. The board welcomes public participation. Anybody who would like to address the board is welcome to do so. If there's anybody who would like to address the board, I will read the rules, but I am not seeing anybody, so we will move on.
Thank you. Good night. I'm going to introduce Mrs. Vale Keyser, who's with me to do our fall assessment report. And one of the things that I'm happy to share is that typically you'll notice that the fall assessment report may be an overview of some of our assessments that we, the types and the styles, the formatives, the summatives, just an overview of what our assessments are that we give in 67. And then typically we've shared the results for the FastBridge benchmark screeners that we give. I was hesitant to share those simply because those are given the first couple of weeks of school, and all of the push that we've done on our action plans, our planning in the spring, I didn't want to take the time to show you what those screeners were going to look like because it was not going to be any different than our spring ultimately. In fact, it might have even been worse because of the summer slide. So I am really happy to share with you tonight with Mrs. Keyser just the work that we've done, and I've snuck in the MAP report. So I don't know if you know MAP. We took MAP over the last couple of weeks at the start of December. I've taken a quick snapshot of them. They were pulled last week while we were still in the heat of testing, so they might be off by a slight % here and there on either end, but when I looked at them comparably today, I had to have these turned in last week. It was more important for me to get you up to date real-time data so that you could see our progress towards our goals and all the work that we've been promising you. So without further ado, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about just a review of our strategic plan and our metrics that we are working toward. We're going to review that Illinois report card, much of which you've heard about for the last couple of months, but a deeper dive into our peer comparables and the work that's guiding much of what you heard about in Ed Committee. And then we're going to be looking at the overview of all of the assessments that we currently are giving, and that's forming some of the work we're looking to do for next year, because some of the assessments we're giving currently this year, we're not sure it's actually measuring what we're looking to measure, and we're not sure that it's helping frame the instructional translation. And then lastly, we will show you some of that current progress with our most up-to-date MAP scores as well as next steps. Vale, would you like to take it away?
Love to. Okay, well, it's a pleasure to be here this evening. Thank you for having me. So everything that we do in our district really revolves around the important work that started years ago with our Portrait of a Learner work, developing our strategic plan with the community, as well as the metrics. So when we think about where our work is this year, it really is focused on that goal number one, the cultivating excellence in learners. Really having an intentional focus on our data and making sure that we're using that to have dipstick checks along the way and ensuring that what we're doing is working for students.
We also, as you know, we have our designations. You've been aware of our designations since the 30th of October. We did want to talk to you a little bit about some of the changes in the state. I don't know if you've heard about the new work of ISB, but they are looking over the next couple of years of changing our proficiency benchmarks, which shouldn't change the way that we perform in terms of our peers, but it may change the way that we are rated proficient or not. So more to come on that. It shouldn't affect us next year, but we will probably see some changes in the coming years. The other thing I wanted to mention to you was that the growth algorithm that the state uses to calculate your commendable or exemplary designations is difficult when you are in the highest percentiles like we are. And I know last month, Mr. Carr, we talked about potentially reviewing these metrics since we had already met these benchmarks. So obviously this is fluid and ongoing. But one thing to be aware of is that the state algorithm gives you a growth score that is one of the highest scores, highest weighted scores on the report card that contributes to your index score. What we have seen in watching our peers and other school districts in the state is that if you are at such a high growth level, you cannot grow as much as you would if you were in a different percentile or at a lower proficiency rate, and therefore that almost can count against you when you get your rating. So I spoke to some of our reps at ISB at III in November, and they said they're working on it and they're looking at different opportunities for this, but it could actually affect our exemplary ratings for some of our schools next year. So we want to make sure that the community is aware of this, and we will obviously have to tell that story, but we'd like to tell that proactively, because the higher you are, the lower your growth rate is. That could potentially weight us down, and you may see some of these exemplaries switch to commendable. So we will be on that, but it is a reality. I've offered some of my suggestions to the state on how they could handle this. We'll see if they take it. They said they're thinking of this, but I'm thinking about it, but it might be a reality. More importantly, what we spoke about last month was looking into our peer comparables. So these are the peer groups. These are our top 18 schools in the area. And we don't want, and Mr. Ramus, I know I talked about being competitive. We're not looking to do better at the expense of other students, but we are looking to push ourselves up into the top echelon. And so obviously we want to work collaboratively with everyone, but we are curious as to why we still fall in that bottom third. With ELA, one of the good things, you'll see our Lake Forest performance. We moved up from being 17 out of 19 last year to 14 out of 19 this year with the adoption, most likely of Amplify, completing it with Fidelity, Integrity. That was 14.3% growth. If you look here, all the growth is in the fourth column right here. The growth of all of our peers, we are at the highest growth rate. So this should be completely celebrated. Kudos to Vale and the team, coaches, all the work that has been done with the teachers and our students who did this work. So congratulations with this accomplishment. You'll see some of the colors at the top. When we were looking at everyone from their ELA performance, the math performance, the way that their special ed population performed, we started highlighting and following some of the trends from the 3 schools that were highlighted in blue, and then even their growth. We were looking at these, so we have reached out to these schools to actually ask. We're having meetings with them. We're asking them, what are they doing? What is their programming? What is their staffing? What are their resources? We're diving in deeply. And you can see those 3 schools are again at the top here. Our math peer comparable groups, we stayed the same, 13 out of 19 this year and last year. We still, even though we remained in the same position compared to our peers, we did still have 1.5% of growth. Looking at the ELA performance of students with disabilities, this includes students with IEPs as well as students with 504s. We moved up, if you will, to the ranking of 12th out of 19 this year. We were at 17 out of 19 last year. So we spoke about this a little bit in Ed Committee, that we feel very comfortable with the Amplify resource and the growth we're seeing as a result of it. Again, 13% growth with our students who have disabilities. With math, 13 out of 19 this year compared to 12 out of 19 last year. This was a 3.3% decrease. And as we spoke about in Ed Committee, we are looking at the resources, the way that we're teaching math. This is an area of focus for us, as well as with the state. But for us, we're just trying to see if we can find any trends. Do you have anything to add to that, Ms. Kieser?
No, I think that it's been really an exciting process because we are staying very curious about what other systems are doing and making sure that we're asking the right questions. And I think that's where it's really important with our groups that we have in place, like our Ed Committee, like our Curriculum Coordinating Committee, that we're able to put this out there and really seek feedback and questions from our community as well to make sure we're asking the right things too.
Great. And then one of the other comparables I'd like to share with you is ISA, which is our science assessment. We did see a dip this year. We went from being 8th out of 19. Science was one of our higher performing subjects. We dropped to 14 out of 19 this year. That was a 1.8 decrease. We have some thoughts about this. One of the things I know is that some of our inquiry units that we were doing before have been compromised with the fact that they've lost some of their time. In speaking with Inam Rahman, the science department chairperson, he said that they have gone down. Obviously, they're every other day. As you know, we have science and social studies. They're performing at, they have contact with students, contact minutes at about, 72.5% of what they used to have. I think this is an area of spotlight for us to look at. Is there a way we can bring some of those inquiry, problem-based, authentic learning experiences back into the science curriculum, even though we've seen a decrease in the number of minutes with students? Vale, I'll turn it over to you for our suite of assessments.
So when we started the presentation, we really talked about our overarching goal. Our assessments are really tied to IAR. IAR is our state summative assessment. So I wanted to just briefly touch on the difference between some of the summative assessments we have and the formative assessments. Summative assessments are the ones that happen once a year, and there's not much you can do with that data. It really tells you over a year of time how you performed. So for example, IAR, the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, is one of those assessments that we use. We're able to look at that from year to year, understand how we grew, what standards we were able to meet in overall, and then areas of growth. So that is something that on every year, we're able to really look at the Illinois School Report Card, take that information at a district level as well as a school level and grade level, and think about what does that mean for curriculum moving forward. However, the power really lies in some of those more formative assessments, such as the MAP assessment that we just took for students. Our window closed, I think, last Friday. The MAP assessment we take for students in grades 2 through 8, and we take that twice a year. We take that in winter, and we take that in spring. And we're able to get reports that really break it down by standards across those grade levels, and we're able to show growth and have dipstick checks into how we're doing. Additionally, we have the FastBridge assessments in both reading and math, and those are assessments that students take from kindergarten through 6th grade, and it depends on which screener they're taking. So in our younger grades, they take one that's really based more on their foundational skills for reading, and then in older grades, they have the CBM, which helps us understand their fluency rate and their accuracy. So those are things that we use, again, just to understand how are we doing along the way. If our goal at the end of the year is this percent proficiency, those formative assessments allow us to track progress over time. So here, that was in the assessment report that you received ahead of time too. These are the suite of assessments that we're looking at. I think that Dr. Fitzsimmons mentioned it earlier too, that we are definitely thinking about, are these the right assessments? Are we giving them at the right times of the year? Again, that's part of our analysis when we're thinking about the comparable districts. We're really looking at how are they assessing students along the way too, how are they using that data? So that's been part of our exploration right now. And then one of the commitments we made to our Board of Education, our community, our district as a whole this year was how can we ensure that we're keeping you more up to date more frequently with data. So we've done a couple of touch points this year. Again, our winter map data, we're gonna give you a little sneak peek today, hot off the press, but we are committing to coming back, I believe in February is when we said, to bring you back the winter to winter map growth. This will give us an opportunity once we come back from winter break to meet with teams as schools and as school teams to really look at their growth thus far and to make action plans. So right when we get back from winter break, within the first couple of weeks, our principals have set times with their teams to go more in depth over these reports so that we're able to make those action plans and have an update with you as related to our school improvement plans when we get back in that February time.
Okay, and so the drum roll, please, our current progress. As Mrs. Keyser said, we have not yet shared this deeply with our buildings, although our building leaders have already started looking at them. We have not gone deeply as a district level with our buildings. So we are giving you a high level overview, but I can, spoiler alert, say that we are seeing growth. So we're excited about this, and this was just given the first week of December, right after Thanksgiving break. And this was our first touch point or temperature check of how we're doing compared to last year since we've implemented these action plans. We are finding that if you look here, this on the left right here is the 2023-2024 MAP scores, and then here on the right is the 2024-2025 winter MAP score. So this is winter to winter, district overall, and what we can show you, and if we break this down, the bands, each of the bands, the colors represent a different percentile that our students fall into. So if we look at the green here, I'm only really looking at the green and the blue right now because this is where we want to be. We want to see green is representing the percentage of our students who are falling with their scores into the top 61st percentile to 80th percentile. So that means that 28% of all of our students score in a percentile that is rather high, 61 to 80%. And if you look at the blue, 32%, this was in 23-24, 32% of our students were scoring in a higher than 80th percentile according to across the nation. And these national percentiles, they use approximately 5 years of historical data to create these norms and these percentile rankings. Now, if we look and we jump to winter of 2024-25, 29% of our students are falling in the 61st to 80th percentile, and 33% of our students are falling or scoring in the 80 or higher percentile in the nation. And ultimately, if you look at this, this is basically saying that last year, if you look at the district, 60% of our students were in the 61st percentile or above. And in 2024, just this last recent test, 62% of our students scored in that higher than 61 percentile or above, which means that if you're looking at just this as a metric alone, we have seen 3.3% growth. The formula that I used for that was just the new value minus the old value divided by the old value times 100. So that's giving us our percent growth there. We're happy about that. If you look at this broken down by grade across the district, we see some amazing growth in different pockets. We also still recognize that if we look in 5th grade, we know we still are having an area of concern there with a decrease from 2023 to 2024. We are very much aware of that. We have been meeting with our building principals, our district coaches. There's more to come on that, but this is one metric if we're just looking at where those students fall in the percentile. I'll have more updates for you on that in February. When we look at math growth, we can look at the same bars, 30% last year, 36%. This is from 66% from last year compared to 70% this year. And that is in math just from this last winter map. This is from the beginning of this school year to now a 6% growth overall in MAP. And again, this does not here translate to IAR proficiency, but I'm giving you a apples to apples comparison from last year to this year. This is just one metric. One thing I'd like to highlight for you, and I extrapolated the math percentiles. If you look at all the grades and you just look at 8th grade, one of the things to take note of is this in 8th grade in math. We have never seen 60% of our students ranging in the 80th or higher percentile. So I wanted to give a huge shout out to DPM West. I wanted to give a huge shout out to the work that they're doing and the fact that I have never seen this kind of growth, and so we're excited to see where this translates to when we get to the spring IAR testing in order to meet the needs of our students. Couple of next steps for you. Just essentially, I'll be back with Mrs. Kieser in February. We'll do a deeper dive into the MAP data. We're also going to be looking with our building leaders and working with teaching and learning to make this data come to life and translate it into instructional shifts and practices, keep the work going. The February assessment report will also include a comparison, and an analysis through our vendor ECRA. It will include fall to winter, or should include fall to winter FastBridge, as well as the MAP. And then, do you want to speak quickly to the SIP plans? And then we'll take any questions you may have.
Yes, so everything that we've been working on this year has been about alignment. So I think even just with Mrs. Mills here earlier today talking about Sheridan, she demonstrated the connection from her SIP plan to our strategic plan to the Portrait of a Learner. So when we come back in February, what we're planning to do is just to really share how we've taken, again, our district level data, whittled that down to the school level analysis in teams, and how that really relates to what's happening with the school improvement plans. So it's very exciting work ahead.
Do you have any questions for us? Mr.
Yeah.
Kumar?
Do you mind going back to the ELA by grade? There you go. So this is the second year in a row we've seen the 2 grade levels have more of an impact on the reading level. And I know you've got plans probably in place or whatever, but I would love for you to come back in February to kind of focus on those 2 grades and how we're going to really address that, and how do we get them up to a level where they can be, should be. And I'm assuming it's still a factor of the pandemic having an impact when they're kindergartners and first graders, because it's right in line with that. But what are we doing as a district to help focus on that, improve that pod to get them where we really want them to be?
Absolutely, and we talk about this all the time. I mean, it's curious, and as I step into this role, I look for balcony view trends, and then we try to see what is going on there. Because in 5th grade, 6th grade, we know we have amazing teachers there. So we know it's got to be something, and whether it's that transition from elementary schools to DPM, whether it's the number of minutes that are allotted, whether it's the fact that you have potentially teachers teaching different curriculum, or maybe they're not on pace. We're not sure yet, but we're asking a lot of questions. And the other thing too that we're thinking about is with the suite of assessments, we're not sure that these assessments are actually helping us dive into the granular level of the work. And so one of the things we're doing is we've created a survey to try to get stakeholder feedback on just the types of assessments, what is useful, what would be more helpful for teachers. And we don't expect teachers to become data wizards. We don't expect them to spend their time diving in. We expect that they can understand what are the basic assessments telling them. That's our job. Our job is to look at that, work with our coaches, have that translate into support from an instructional and a pedagogical lens for our teachers so that they can do the magic with our kids. So we are asking these questions, and that's part of our next steps. Dr. Montgomery has seen me in my office with graphs surrounding me and asking people questions for at least the last month. So we talk about this every day, and this accountability piece, it is 1/3 of my job title. So I hear you, and thank you for that charge.
I would also like to say that when we were coming up with board goals, we focused a lot on transitions. We did focus on high school readiness as something that we wanted to know how every area of what we were doing was affecting that so that the kids are ready to go to high school. But we did also touch on 5th grade readiness in that transition. We just couldn't figure out ways to measure it. So that's something that our board goals is a document that we can shift and change. And if there is a way to focus on that as something that we can figure out how to measure in a way that is productive, that's something that we would really be open to.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more? Is it this group of kids that's trending, you said maybe struggling from the pandemic, or is it a dip in 5th and 6th grade? Do you know what I mean?
I think it's 1 and 1. So 5th grade, I think it's the structure of how we're using instructional minutes that we're trying to figure out, as it's still an elementary schedule in a middle school setting. So I think that's more of a structural issue that we're trying to navigate through. 6th grade has trended low as we've looked at year over year for that group of students.
But that doesn't translate to the math grades. The math grade's pretty steady. So that's why ELA seems to be a focus area, because what you just said doesn't touch math, because math did great or tracked where it should be. So that's the curious part about it, as you said, is ELA seems to be a potential focus area. Why is there a dip there and not in the other areas?
I think it's a yes and. I think it is the structure as well as looking at the data. And we did talk about the pandemic, and I think when we initiated the reading review years ago, we recognized we had an issue there. So that is, when you talk about what are our action plans for those grades specifically, we really do need to drill down to what are those gaps that all students are missing, because we need to address that and make sure that we're helping support them to get to the next grade level.
Not a question, but a comment and adding emphasis to something that I already know you're looking into, and that is your conversations with a few of the comparable districts. For me, that's a very important conversation, because the reason why they're comparable districts is because the demographics are very similar. The students should be similar. They're coming from similar backgrounds. So when we see some of the significant differences, when we look at the rankings, it's not like, okay, there's a range of rankings, we're near the bottom, but everyone's bunched within a few percent. No, some of them are significant 15% differential. So something different is going on in those classrooms that's making those schools perform significantly better than District 67, and I want to know what that is, and I know you want to know what that is. So I know you're going to look into it. I look forward to hearing more about that, hopefully in February, in terms of what you learn about what they're doing and what we can learn from them so that we can catch up to where they are.
Absolutely, and that is one of the reasons that we intentionally had Dr. Sturpin, Dr. Escobar, and then also Mr. Paulson present to you at Ed Committee, because these are some of the questions that are driving us, and we're asking, what are we doing so that we know at a granular level when we speak to these peer groups? And I suspect one of them is that we are spread very thin, going into the jack of all trades, master of none that we spoke about in Ed Committee. I wonder if that is one of the reasons we are unable to focus, and that's something we're trying to bring to some of our teams. Rather than just throwing numbers at them, data at them, gaps at them, we're trying to have our coaches explicitly focus and support our teachers on skills, and perhaps even one skill area with sample questions from the IAR that are embedded all throughout the year. So it's not test prep, it's actually using those types of assessments in everything that they do, but explicitly focusing on one area so that we can see growth. And just as, you know that I'm a scientist, not really, that I was a science teacher. We know that we change one variable. So I'm trying to do this intentionally, carefully with the team, and we're really trying to focus in on changing one variable so we know what's happening.
I was just going to say, though, I do think it is interesting that not only are they growing, these districts with the top growth, but they also had strong numbers to start with, so they're continuing to grow on top of strong growth.
By the way, I looked up some of these schools. So they were commendable.
All right, any other questions for Renee or Val? No? Great, thank you both.
Thank you.
Liaison reports. The first report up is Greg Adamo for True North.
I have no report beyond what appears in the action items below.
I'm the legislative liaison in similar situation. It's been quiet in Springfield lately, which is generally a good thing, so nothing to report right now on the legislative front. Spirit of 67, Megan.
I have no report.
Monica, anything from APT?
I don't have a report, but there is an event coming up I wanted to mention. It's a partnership between District 67's APT, the high school APT, and the Gorton Center, and that is Chip Layton. The very funny Instagrammer from the Layton Show will be coming to Gorton. Tickets are on sale now. You may remember him from such quotes as, when does my social security number expire? Or what is grandma's real name? So he's going to talk about parenting and kids, and it'll be a fun night. So tickets are on sale, and I hope to see you there.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to the action items. Item number 1 is approval of the 2024 final tax levy. May I have a motion to approve the 2024 final tax levy, please?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I just want to say thank you for really outlining the work that was put into the tax levy and the discussion that we had as a board. I really appreciate that because it was more than just a quick 5-minute conversation. It was definitely a long, really over the course of a year conversation with the staff, with the district, and within the board here. So thank you for that.
I have a question for Dr. Hermes, and I know the answer to it, but for those who are watching, I think it would be helpful. If you could explain some of the cost increases that the district has seen over the past year and expects to see over coming years.
I'd be happy to. And so as you so rightfully pointed out, the district is not immune to inflation, which was actually recognized in the property tax extension limitation law, so PTEL, which is what governs school districts' ability to increase their local tax levy. The levy that we're looking at for this year is at 3.4%, is the maximum by law. But I will say that we are experiencing increases in many of our costs that far exceed 3.4%. So if you think about things such as not only labor, but you also add in our benefits, so health insurance is increasing at a much greater rate. Our transportation also is exceeding 3.4, as well as our supplies, materials. Pretty much everything that we have on the expense side is outpacing the current 3.4% for inflation. Not that we don't take opportunities to try to find efficiencies, but we are not immune from the cost of toilet paper going up or any paper goods. It's the same things that are impacting our homes also translate and impact the school district.
Thank you.
The PTEL figure is a product of the Consumer Price Index, right?
It's the December over December.
Any other questions from the board before we vote? All right, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Yan?
Yes.
Mrs. Bernal?
Aye.
Mrs. Shohan?
Yes.
Mr. Karar?
Aye.
Ms. Engelberg?
Yes.
Mr. Remus?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I think we missed Mr. Adamo in that.
Mr. Adamo?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next action item is approval of the ISB maintenance grant. May I have a motion to approve the ISB maintenance grant, please?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the ISB maintenance grant?
Can you give me a 2-sentence description of it and why it's good and why we should accept it?
Sure. So this is a Illinois State Board of Education grant process by which that they will match up to $50,000 of school district investment in either maintenance, upkeep, or improvement of their facilities. So basically, if we have a $50,000 project, they match 50, we get a $100,000 project paid for. We are applying this year based on the anticipated construction at Deer Path Cafeteria, so that renovation work we're calling Phase A. would, we believe, fall into this. So therefore, the project is well over 50,000. As you know, it's estimated at 2.7 million, but we would receive 50,000 from the state to offset that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Yon,
Yes.
Mr. Karar,
Aye.
Mr. Remus,
Yes.
Ms. Engelberg,
Yes.
Mrs. Shohan,
Yes.
Mr. Adamo,
Yes.
Mrs. Bernal.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Moving on to the next action item, may I have a motion to approve a resolution declaring the intention to issue $5 million worth of working cash fund bonds for the purpose of increasing the district's working cash fund and directing that notice of such intention be published in the manner provided by law.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Bernal,
Aye.
Mrs. Shohan,
Yes.
Mr. Adamo,
Yes.
Mr. Karar,
Aye.
Ms. Yon,
Yes.
Ms. Engelberg,
Yes.
Mr. Remus.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next action item, may I have a motion to approve the Health and Life Safety Plus amendments?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Karar,
Aye.
Mrs. Bernal,
Aye.
Mrs. Shohan,
Yes.
Mr. Remus,
Yes.
Ms. Engelberg,
Yes.
Ms. Yon,
Yes.
Mr. Adamo.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next action item, may I have a motion to approve the consideration of a resolution and a petition for withdrawal from True North Educational Cooperative 804 filed by Glenview District 34?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
What is the difference between item 5 and 6? The consideration of the resolution and the approval of the resolution?
The consideration is the resolution and petition that Glenview presented last night at their board meeting, and then that's acknowledgement of that of that actual petition and resolution. So it's acknowledging that we've reviewed it. The second is our resolution that's saying, are we approving the resolution for their proposed withdrawal?
Got it, thank you.
Any discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Adamo,
Yes to consider.
Mr. Remus,
Yes.
Mr. Karar,
Aye.
Mrs. Shohan,
Yes.
Mrs. Bernal,
Aye.
Ms. Engelberg,
Yes.
Ms. Yon.
Yes.
We'll now move on to the next action item, which is, may I have a motion to approve the resolution regarding the proposed withdrawal of school district number 34 from the True North Educational Cooperative?
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Karar,
Aye.
Mrs. Bernal,
Aye.
Ms. Engelberg,
Yes.
Ms. Yon,
Yes.
Mr. Remus,
Yes.
Mrs. Shohan,
Yes.
Mr. Adamo.
Nay.
We will now move on to the consent agenda. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of a board member. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items, please?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Engelberg,
Yes.
Mrs. Shohan,
Yes.
Mrs. Bernal,
Aye.
Mr. Remus,
Yes.
Mr. Adamo,
Yes.
Mr. Karar,
Aye.
Ms. Yon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
There are no new FOIA requests. We have another opportunity for public participation. Seeing no one, we will move on to the announcements. Dr. Montgomery already identified that we're about to begin winter break. MLK Day is January 20th, 2025, and then the next board meeting is February 25th, 2025. May I have a motion to adjourn the City of Lake Forest School District 67 board meeting for December 17th, 2024?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a voice vote, please? All in favor, say aye.
Yes.
Yes.